We'll wait a couple more minutes, see who if anybody else shows up, and then we can get started. It's a decent enough crowd. While you're waiting, might as well fill out attendance attendance.dsucomputer.club. I forgot to add the link to the presentation, but. What do you think? Do you want to wait a couple more minutes, or should we get started? I'll give it like another. At
like
34, we'll start.
2 minutes or something like
2
that.
minutes? You want to wait till 35?
Yeah.
We can do that. Yeah, people are kind of slowly joining, so. Wait like another 30 seconds and we'll get going. Okay, we're going. So, like I said, for the people that have joined in the last few minutes, fill out attendance.dsucomputer.club, as usual, and we will start our discussion on VPNs. So, for those of you that maybe aren't completely aware of what a VPN is, maybe you've heard the buzzword and you're like, yes, VPN, and you don't really know exactly what it means. A VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. So what it does is it extends your private network over to the internet, and you can interact with the internet securely with other private networks. So what it's doing basically is it's hiding or protecting your public IP address. So when you interact with the internet, it's your public IP address isn't being you're using a different public IP address than what you normally would use. So VPNs, they create secure tunnels between your computer and the things you access online. Instead of just directly connecting to the internet like you usually do, there's this little pit stop to the VPN server first, and then you hit the website that you're navigating to. So typically it goes computer to, say, your hitting dsu.edu. If you're using a VPN, it would go to computer, to your VPN, and then route to dsu.edu. So why would you use one? Basically, it's just a security precaution. When you're using a VPN, all of your traffic to and from the server is encrypted, and that's really nice. That's what we want. It's really good to use a VPN when you're in a public location with open Wi-Fi. Example is coffee shops, airports, McDonald's, where there is potentially an attacker listening or watching the wireless traffic, either through a variety of ways that they sniff out packets and kind of scan Wi-Fi networks watching for traffic. So it's a good idea to have a VPN, and you should always use a VPN when you're on public internet, public Wi-Fi. It also protects your privacy. So with your public IP address, there's also typically like a location, and location, it's usually just something simple like maps in South Dakota. So if you're one of those people that does not like your location being known, VPN will hide that for you. So it'll hide your location, it'll hide your public IP address, your browsing history, etc. And overall, you just have better accessibility. For example, you can access your home network remotely. And in the lovely world of COVID that we now all live in, VPN are becoming extremely important, because if you're working for really any company, like a government contractor, the government in general, even just private companies, they are what they're doing typically is when you're working from home, they're going to tell you, okay, just VPN in to our work network, and then you can do work. So a lot of companies are heavily investing in their VPNs, making sure they're good and can handle the traffic that work from home and COVID has caused. And another fun thing you can do with VPNs is spoof your location. So you can pretend you are somewhere you're not. So you can finally watch South Park, Big Bang Theory, and Peppa Pig in China if you live in China. So you just spoof your location, say, I'm not in China, I'm in Japan. And then you have access to all these different shows and movies on Netflix or Disney Plus that you didn't have access to in your home country. It's very fun. Oh, and you can also play video games with your friends when servers get taken down. So yeah, VPNs, very important, and they're just fun. So what are your options when it comes to VPNs? So there's really two big, broad choices. So you can either subscribe to a VPN service, and the pros and cons of that. Con is you're going to have to deal with a monthly fee. You're paying for the service, for the upkeep of the servers that this company has to maintain. But the plus side is it's more reliable and easier to use. An example is, if a server goes down, you don't necessarily have to go and troubleshoot it. The company's going to do that for you, and all you have to do is send a ticket into help desk and say, my VPN, this server's not working, and then they'll go and fix it. Other option is you make your own. And Amazon, AWS, Amazon Web Services, is a great tool that can allow you to set up your VPNs. You can set them up on Raspberry Pis. I talked about that a little bit when I did my Raspberry Pi. Words are hard. Presentation. And there are some costs, such as server hosting. You're going to have to pay for that kind of stuff. But if you do the math, it should be cheaper in the long run. So there are tons and tons and tons of choices when it comes to wanting to do a VPN. So OpenVPN is very, very popular. It is a VPN client software, and I will go into it a little bit more later on. If you want to set it up and control everything, something to keep in mind is you're going to be your own admin, your own support team. If something goes down, it's up to you to troubleshoot it, figure out what's going on. AWS probably isn't going to help you much. They're just going to be like, well, figure it out. The benefit of if you set it up is you can find there is free open source software available, but you do have to have a server to run it on. So you can either get a Raspberry Pi and that be your server, quote unquote, or you actually get an actual server that's big and beefy and you put it on a server rack in your room and there's your VPN. And it can do, allocate a little bit to the VPN and then the rest you can do what you want with the rest of the server. So private internet access is one subscription service, VPN service you can do. They got a lot of good reviews and they're pretty cheap. When you do the math, it averages out to about $3 a month for a 1-year plan. So you have to buy the 1-year plan, and then they do that marketing trick where it's like, well, if you do a whole year with us, we'll give it to you cheaper, or if you do 2 years with us, we'll do it even cheaper than that. So another example is NordVPN. I think NordVPN is probably the most popular, most well-known VPN service out there. They love to sponsor YouTubers, so if you watch a lot of YouTube, you probably have heard of them quite a bit. Their price is about $6.99 a month if you sign up for the 1-year plan. And about this time last year, actually, NordVPN had a little oopsie where a hacker breached some of their servers. And because of the nature of VPNs, there were no log files, so it was kind of a mess. But now we've had a year to look back and reflect on it, and it wasn't too bad. I think they only got access to like 1 or 2 servers, and I believe they were in Norway or Sweden. But there was no information taken, so no harm, no foul. But it was just kind of a funny, ironic thing that happened. Yeah. Another thing is maybe you don't want to pay for a service. You can also use a browser. Some web browsers actually have built-in VPNs. So Opera, if you've probably have heard of it a little bit, I think we touched on it a little bit in Web App. And Opera actually has a built-in VPN with unlimited data. So all you have to do is go into Opera's settings, turn on the VPN, and you're good to go. And that's really nice. Opera's not the most popular browser, so I have no idea if it's really like great compared to like Google Chrome or stuff like that, but just something to keep in mind, if you want to try out a new web browser, if you're sick of Google Chrome sucking up all your CPU. Tor browser, you may have heard of Tor as the web browser you use to get to the dark net, and that's typically what we use it for. Tor is a little bit more complicated. It doesn't just do your basic VPN options. It has a lot more features. And, if you're going on the dark web, you need more than just your standard VPN. So, again, 2 browsers that you might be interested in looking into. And, maybe use Chrome when you're on your home network. But when you go into, like, a McDonald's to use their Wi-Fi, maybe use Opera for that. Something like that. Might be a good option for you if you don't want to spend money and you're just okay with like using 2 different browsers for different things. Just something to keep in mind. So now to the fun part, depending on what you define as fun, making your own VPN servers. So what's really nice is Amazon, AWS, they have this option. Isn't Opera the one that had a big scandal? I did not hear about that. If you could send me a link to an article, I'd appreciate it. Anyway, I do have questions. Discord up, so if you do have questions, send it in the Computer Clubs channel. I will see it. Anyway, Amazon AWS has this option where you can use there's this free tier option, so you can run servers with no cost for up to 750 hours. And once you hit that 750 hours cap, the price is going to go up. And an average, the T2 micro instance, that's what they're going to charge you for, costs about 0.016 cents an hour, or about $846 a month if you do the math and if you're running it a lot. Raspberry Pis, I've talked about this quite a bit. Basically, you just put VPN software on the Pi, run it on your network, boom, you've got your your VPN. And like I said, there's plenty of other options. And there isn't a one size fits all when it comes to VPNs, which is really nice. You can kind of mix and match and customize to what you need. And realistically, all you just need is a server that can run Linux. That's the end of it. And there's plenty of documentation you can find online for installing the software you need. Tons of walkthroughs. So I'm not going to spend too much time walking you through a process because, like I said, you really need. It just depends on what you need and your given situation and what software you like the most. So, but yeah, there is a GitHub script that you can use to install OpenVPN on your server. And like I said, OpenVPN is a client software that allows you to connect to your server. And I'll go into it. Take in the next slide. So one example of how you can do a VPN is, well, kind of the basics that you need, and you can kind of mix and match these. The first thing you need is hardware. You need something that's going to host the VPN server physically. So that can be Raspberry Pi. It can be a server that you have on your server rack. Whatever you really need or whatever you have on hand should be able to work. Now, for the software side of it, you need something that's going to kind of handle the web stuff. And AWS is an example of that. So a nice something about AWS, if you use it to set up a VPN, is it's going to route. So your public IP address, instead of showing up as I am a laptop in Madison, South Dakota, it's going to show up as I am a server and I am an Amazon server. Like it'll list on whatismyipaddress.com or whatismyip. It's going to say Amazon server in insert city and state here. So that is something that maybe attackers could use if they see that and look up your IP, if they somehow public IP, if they somehow get it and they can go, oh, they're using AWS for a VPN. Is that something realistically they could really work with? Probably not. I don't think you really have to worry about it too much. A lot of people use AWS, so they probably won't get too worried. Anyway, and then the next thing you need is a VPN client. So a VPN client is something you're going to run on your client machine. So that's going to be your laptop. It's going to be your phone, what have you. So what you're going to do is you would just install it on the client, and you would sign into the client or sign into the server through the client software. And once you wanted to connect to the VPN, you would just open up that client software, say, I want to connect to this VPN, and it would send a request to the VPN server saying they want to use you, and then off it goes, off to the races. So an example of that is OpenVPN, very well known. I highly recommend it. It's very good. It runs. It's not necessarily on the desktop like a desktop app. It actually runs in the teeny little on your taskbar with a little arrow, and it's like the tiny little widgets. It actually runs there, so that's where you access it, and then from there it gives you a status of like I'm connected to a VPN or I'm not. So that's something to keep in mind with OpenVPN. And then another thing about this particular setup is you need to do a key exchange. So the server, if you want to connect to it, typically what you're going to do is you're going to SSH into the server. That's the easiest way to do it, most common way. So OpenVPN needs the keys, and the server needs to know your keys, and a good way to exchange the keys, generate them, is PuTTY. So a lot of us know PuTTY as it's the thing I use to sign into Tom's class or Andrew's class or operating environments if you're with Tullis. But PuTTY also has this really nice part of it where you can put the keys in, and I think AWS generates them, and then you put them in PuTTY, and it then works. So yeah, that's basically the four things you really need. If you don't like using PuTTY, there's other pieces of software out there. If you're not a fan of OpenVPN, there's other VPN clients you can use. If you don't want to use AWS, there's lots of other things you can do. AWS is arguably the most common and the most, I think, has the most documentation to it. So it is kind of hard to not use AWS, but I'd say it's possible. And then hardware, yeah, that's probably the one that you can do the most, tinker with the most, because hardware, you might not need a huge, giant, beefy server to host this little VPN that you're maybe going to use not that often, or you need something a little more easier, smaller, cheaper. But this is pretty much the basics of a VPN and what you need, and use them to connect to public networks. Use them to connect to your home network if you're gone. They're really nice, and I think that we should you should use them if you want to be secure overall. But yeah, that's the basics of VPNs. And I'd love to hear what you guys all use if you use a VPN. And I'll also open up the next few minutes to questions if anyone has any. Feel free to shout them out or write them in the chat. No? I have some computer club announcements too. I forgot to say those at the beginning. Next week is supposed to be our project demo day. So if you have a project that you want to show, please talk to Jake Hintz, myself, any of the computer club officers. Let us know you're interested so we can get you down. So far, we only have one person that wants to present. So even if you are a little nervous about presenting, don't worry, there's no judgment. We're not going to think your project is silly or dumb. We're here to encourage you, and we want you to do projects here. They look great on resumes, so highly recommend projects. And showing them off, you get that sense of pride and like, I did that. It's really fun and cool. But yeah, if we don't get enough people for project demo day, we're gonna have to do something else. And I don't know, maybe we'll just make you all write Math 201 proofs next Monday if we don't get any people. So maybe that's an incentive. We'll do something boring next week, and then you guys are gonna be like, no, we should have done projects. We should have told them we had a project. Nah, I'm kidding. We won't do proofs. We wouldn't torch you like that. And then the other thing is this semester is winding down, and just want to say thank you all for sticking with us throughout the semester. Attendance, if you haven't noticed, usually tends to go down as semester drags on. So we want to say thank you for everyone that's shown up consistently. Big props to you. And as for kind of what our schedule is going to look like, our plan is we're going to do a meeting the 9th and the 16th. And the 16th is probably going to be our last meeting for the semester because the 23rd is Thanksgiving week and a lot of people are going to be taking off. So we don't really think we're going to have much luck with that. And then, of course, 30th onward is finals week and stuff like that. So I'm sure we'll all be busy in help night, helping people with finals and projects and stuff. So that is also something that's going on. So yeah, looks like we're going to have about 2 meetings left of this semester. So show up, and we hope to see you guys at these last 2 meetings. And we want to thank you all for coming, and hope you all have a fantastic evening. So, thanks again. Guys at these last 2 meetings, and we want to thank you all for coming, and hope you all have a fantastic evening. So, thanks again.